It's always important to fight back. Donald Trump has been attacking Ivy League schools like Columbia and Harvard. His administration sent a letter to Harvard, y'all, literally saying, hey, I think that you guys ought to pay us. You allow the federal government to have oversight over your university and allow us to audit the thinkings of faculty, staff, and students. They said, go to hell. Trump said, well, I'm going to hold up $2.2 billion in grants, and they announced another $1 billion. And they claimed, well, the letter was sent erroneously or inadvertently, but you actually put it together and you put it on letterhead. Now, Harvard is suing the Trump administration, saying, you are breaking the law when it comes to canceling grants. See, here's the deal. Trump thinks he's a king. And he thinks that he can just unilaterally say, we're not going to sit here and spend money on grants. Here's the only problem. Congress passes laws. Now, first of all, let me explain this bunch of y'all, especially you simple Simons who've actually never read the Constitution. Anything dealing with money has to begin in the House of Representatives. That's actually in the Constitution, okay? So it begins in the House, bill is passed in the House, then it goes to the Senate, then another bill is passed in the Senate. Those two then have a conference, and then they actually sort that thing out. The House revotes on the agreed to bill, the Senate revotes, and it goes to the president for the signature. That's what happens. Congress decides who gets what money, not the executive branch. So Harvard says you're actually breaking the law by canceling grants because Congress has a procedure that spelled out exactly how grants can be canceled. So as a result, they are suing the administration, saying that it violates the university's First Amendment rights. It also says it violates Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. For me, Teresa, this is how you treat bullies. You punch them back. The problem that we have right now in this country, major law firms capitulated. Trump issued these executive orders that were frankly illegal. And instead of fighting them like they should, they all ran scared and was like, oh, no, we're going to cut deals. And then Trump says, fine, y'all do pro bono work for stuff that I think you should be fighting. And too many capitulated. We're now seeing the news media right now. Bill Owens, who is the head of 60 Minutes. What happened? He sent a letter today stepping down from 60 Minutes. Now, folks, I'm going to show you in a second the letter that he actually sent out because he declared that he's actually lost the editorial independence to run 60 Minutes the way he sees fit. This is what he actually sent the staff. He said, the fact is that 60 Minutes has been my life. My son was 6 months old. My wife was pregnant with my daughter, and my mother was in a coma when I spent 5 weeks on the battlefield in Iraq with Scott. My 60 Minutes priorities have always been clear, maybe not smart, but clear. Over the past months, it has also become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I have always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience. So, having defended this show and what we stand for from every angle, over time with everything I could, I'm stepping aside so the show can move forward. The show is too important to the country. It has to continue, just not with me as the executive producer. Please remember, people didn't think we would survive without Mike or Ed or Don or Jeff. We did. You will. 60 Minutes will continue to cover the new administration as we will report on future administrations. We will report from war zones, investigate injustices, and educate our audience. In short, 60 Minutes will do what it has done for 57 years. He says Wendy McMahon has always had our back, and she agrees that 60 Minutes needs to be run by a 60-minute producer. Tanya has been an amazing partner, as have Claudia and Debbie, Matt Richmond, and Matt Polvoy. I'm grateful to all of them. Look, I have worked at CBS News for 37 years, more than half of that at 60 Minutes. I have been shot at and threatened with jail for protecting a source. I've overseen more than 600 stories as executive producer of 60. I know who I am and what I have done to cover the most important stories of our time under difficult conditions. I'm also proud to have hired the next generation of correspondents and to call Leslie, Bill, Anderson, Sharon, John, Cecilia, and Scott friends. Scott, one of my closest, meaning Scott Pelley. Thank you all. Remain focused on the moment. Our audience deserves it. Bill. Now, why did he actually send that, folks? He sent that memo to the staff because CBS is being sold. Sherry Redstone is selling Paramount, which owns CBS, which owns 60 Minutes, to Larry Ellison and his son. They need the Trump administration to sign off on it. Trump has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against 60 Minutes and CBS and Paramount because he's mad about their interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, claiming that they edited it. Well, Fox News edits all of his interviews as well. They released their transcripts, ain't no big deal. But Sherry Redstone, because she wants her billions, is willing to settle with Trump. They're going to mediation because she wants the company sold. Here's what we're dealing with, Teresa. You've got these billionaires, these oligarchs who care about money. They don't care about the law. They don't care about integrity. They don't have morals. They don't have values. They don't have principles. They don't care about journalistic integrity. They don't care about the First Amendment. They don't care about these things. So you're seeing these folks capitulate. You're seeing them bow down. And Trump knows if he can weaken the colleges, if he can weaken the press, then he is able to rule like an autocrat. That's why Harvard's saying, oh, hell no, we're going to fight y'all in court. Is so important because you've got to punch the bully back.
These are such bold moves that have been front and center of our faces, weeks after weeks. And, it is troubling just to see some of the latest news that is coming out. And you're absolutely right, Roland. When it comes to those of influence with money, we've seen it first with super PACs on the political side. And now we're seeing it in government, right? Creating an entire entity of DOGE, of trying to figure out how to cut budget and spending like accountants aren't available and accessible. So there's just so much going on right now. Glad amongst other universities are stepping up and suing. Attorney General here, Josh Shapiro, is suing the Trump administration. So like Mustafa said earlier, state attorney generals and local prosecutors are doing their part to make sure that our cities and states are secure. Unfortunately, it isn't enough, but it is a start to punching back to an administration that feels like they have the utmost power and support within inside the walls. And again, that is not government, that is not true journalism, and that is not democracy.
Listen, you can't sit here and play games here. And the thing is, if you bow down this early in the first year, Mustafa, this man does not have a bottom. He will come back and he will take, and he will take, and he will take, and he will take, and he will take. He is not satisfied. His thirst is to decimate you, destroy you. And so you have to swing back with everything in order to knock his ass out.
Yeah. Luda said you better throw them bows. Some folks might remember that. I'm glad that Harvard is throwing bows. And then you had a number of other colleges and universities who have also signed on to a letter of support. We'll see what that translates into. But that's exactly what it is. Anybody who grew up in the street, anybody who grew up on the playground, you understand what the dynamics are. If you let a bully continue to bully you, they will continue to take your lunch money. Then they'll take your shoes. Next thing you know, they done took your pants. And I don't even want to know what's after that. The reality of the situation is that you just can't let people run all over you. And this administration has a game plan, and they understand how to deconstruct all of the foundational elements inside of this country so that they can make sure that they have all of the power. They understand that education is a critical part of that. One, they want them to bow, but they also want them to change their curricula. They want them to change who they accept into colleges and universities, so forth and so on. They understand the other way that you take over is that you control the mechanisms around communication. And of course, whether it is TV stations or radio stations or whatever it might be, that could help to balance out and help people to get information so they can make an informed decision for themselves. They're not interested in that. They want something like the novel 1984, where people are controlling what is being shared, and the only narrative that you ever receive is what Trump says is reality. Even when you, with your own eyes and your own ears, know that there's something different going on. If someone continues day after day after day to feed you misinformation and disinformation, you will eventually start to believe it, and you will cower. So I'm glad that there are people who are fighting back. I'm glad people are finally finding a spine, because for the longest time, folks act like they didn't have any cojones. So, you just got to change the dynamic.
Yeah, I just think that, again, you can't not stand idly by and allow this thug to do what he is doing. Otherwise, he is going to continue to take whatever he wants. I mean, he operates like a mafia thug. That's who he is, Teresa. Call it what it is. And so all those law firms, oh, he's going to demand more. He's going to demand your first child, your firstborn, your lastborn. He's going to demand everything because this is nothing but retribution. And also, somebody posted something that's very interesting. Another reason why he can't stay at Harvard, because Harvard, Columbia, and Stanford all wouldn't admit his son. That's who he is. The amount of money that he went after Columbia for was the exact same amount of money Columbia turned down a sale to him when he wanted to acquire some of their property. This is a person who's about retribution. And this is a person who never should be allowed to have the level of power that a president actually has.
You're absolutely right. This is hopefully a learning curve to Democrats, as they're gearing up for the midterms, but also a call of action of the holes that we do have in our government right now that is allowing this ability to even happen from a standing president. Listen, it is, just from my generation, millennial, Generation Y, we're looking at this like this is not what was told to us as we were talking about what our Black history is, what our ancestors went through. And as we see, like, what's happening today, when we talk about, like, change and, is it supposed to, what is it supposed to look like? It seems like we're, essentially going backwards just a bit because of what's happening right now in our government that it looks like. So it's not really promising for the next generation, but I do believe, some of these young voices that we do have from AOC, Jasmine Crockett, at least they are standing up to say something. We have a lot of, our sitting elected officials from Congress and U.S. Congress and Senate that are absolutely not saying anything because of fear of retribution, and that just also has to change as well.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.